Hello, dear viewers. Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Hiremat. Most of you have heard the form of vachanas in Kannada literature. Vachana is a unique form. Vachana means saying the things already said. Vachana is usually in blank verse. Sharana movement is famous in the 12th century of Common Era in the history of Karnataka. It has its own uniqueness. Sharanas voiced against the vices of the society, discrimination of gender, and etc. They used Vachana form for their expression. That doesn't mean they were the first person, they were the pioneers in using Vachanas. There were already other Vachanakaras, especially Jedara Dasimaya is considered the pioneer of Vachanas. Jedara Dasimaya is an senior contemporary of these Sharanas of the 12th century of the Common Era. And of course, Sharanas used Vachanas for their expression against the exploitation, caste, and discrimination of all sorts in the existing society. Basavanna was the leader of that movement, as he was a political figure in the reign of Bijala, as he had leadership qualities, he led the movement. Basavanna might be a political leader, but Allama Prabhu was and is a spiritual leader. Allama Prabhu expressed his thoughts and feelings in his vachanas. He composed vachanas, simple vachanas, swara vachanas, Bidagina vachanas, that is the passion vachanas, and riddles, etc. These swara vachanas can be sung, and Bidagina vachanagalu, that is passion vachanas, are very peculiar. They are complicated. They are like riddles. The words suggest a word behind the word and beyond the word, and the meaning of it is behind the word, beyond the word also. So, these passion vachanas of Allama Prabhu open before us a unique world in which we live. Of course, Allama Prabhu used his signature as Guheshwara. Allama Prabhu is a unique Vachanakara, no doubt about it. But as far as his birth is concerned, we don't have that much of reliable information. We have a little bit of information, and there are two traditions regarding the birth of Allama Prabhu. One is the tradition of Chamarasa, and another one is the tradition of Harihara of the 15th century. Of course, both of them are belonged to 15th century. Harihara of 13th century is a different one from the Harihara of 15th century. Chamarasa told that Allama Prabhu was born in a unique way. His father's name was Selfless, that is Nirankara. Mother's name was Sugnani, that is the wise one. And their son was Allama. Sugnani and Nirankara, that is the selfless and wise one, didn't have any issues. As they were devotees of Shiva, they prayed to Shiva to provide them a child. Of course, Shiva yielded to their prayer, and one nice day he provided them a child by the side of Sugnani. So, Allama Prabhu was unborn, as in the real sense. Of course, then Allama Prabhu had seen Maya, that is the illusion, a young lady. She was the daughter of Mamakara, that is the selfishness, and Maya Devi, that is the lady illusion. And she wanted to test the virginity of Allama Prabhu. So she chased him, and Allama Prabhu did not yield to her, and she was defeated in her chasing. And then Parvati, the wife of Shiva, understood it, and then they took her back to her Kailasa. It is one of the stories regarding the birth of Allama Prabhu. And another tradition is Hariharas. Harihara told that Allama's father was a dancer, Allama was a drummer in Balligave, and of course he was an expert in playing on his drum. There was a young dancer. Her name was Kamalate, that is the love's tender. And as she was an expert in dancing, she challenged other dancers and the instrument players to compete with her. She thought that there was no one to compete with her. But Allama accepted her challenge. She began to dance in Banavasi, in the temple of Madhukeshwara, and he began to play on his drummer. Yes, the competition went on and on. There was a thrilling. No one was in a position to be defeated, but at last that Kamalate was defeated. She accepted her defeat. And anyhow, Allama Prabhu was attracted to her, and they fell in love with each other. They married, and the life went on and on as if there were nothing. They played their own ways, in their own ways, and one day, unfortunately, that Kamalata, love's tendril, was died due to illness. Allama Prabhu could not live without Kamalate, so he became mad. He went in search of Kamalate in village, in forest, in town, and wherever he went. But he could not get her. So he was frustrated. In the mood of frustration, one day he sat on a pile under a tree outside a town. At that time he did not know what to do. As he was frustrated, he was scratching the ground with his toenail. As he went on and on scratching the ground with his toenail, he sensed something, and his toe touched the cupola of a gopuram. He was wondered. So he went on and digging the ground out of curiosity. Then he had seen a temple in the underground. The door was closed, so he went to the door and he kicked the door to be opened. He did not know what he was doing, but in the fit of frustration, he kicked the door of a temple and door was opened. Then he went on and on up to a person who sat there. That person kept a Nishtalinga, that is a personal linga, on his palm. He went on and on looking at that Ishtalinga. That person was in his trance. His name was Animisheya. His eyes were opened and concentrated on the Ishtalinga, and he didn't have any eyelids, and eyelids were not flip and flap like others. Allama Prabhu was wondered, he was astonished. He stood before him. At that time, that Animishaya did not talk to him anything. He simply handed over his linga to Allama Prabhu and he breathed out. Of course, Allama Prabhu did not know what to do. He was in confusion. Anyhow, that Animishaya had given him a linga. He took that linga, he pondered over it, and he got some ideas, and there he was enlightened. That is, in a cave before Animishaya, he was enlightened. So, by that time onwards, he went on and on preaching things to the common people and to the rest of the others. And he composed vachanas in his own ways. Of course, these vachanas are philosophical. They say something about this life and some social evils, and they are very critical regarding the social system, political system, and hypocrisy of spirituality, etc., etc. As he went on and on composing the vachanas, he came to know Kalyana. He came to Kalyana, where all the Sharanas which was the center of Sharanas at that time. Of course, there was a mansion of experience, that is Anubhava Mandapa. In those days, that Anubhava Mandapa was a center of discussion, it was a center of debate, it was a center of logical thinking, it was a center of so many things for Sharanas. It was just like our modern days good parliament. Of course, that all the Sharanas requested, entreated Allama Prabhu to become the head of that mansion of experience. because he was very logical, he was rational, even he pointed out the mistakes done by Basava, Channabasavana, Siddharama, Akkamadevi, etc., etc. He accepted him only if they answered his questions properly. Until and unless the proper answer, he could not accept them. So that is why, as he was a man of experience, as he was a man of spirituality without hypocrisy, everyone honored him, everyone respected him. So there he went on and on composing so many vachanas. Of course, in that Anubhava Mantapa, in that mansion of experience, there were literate vachanakaras and illiterate vachanakaras also. Literate vachanakaras recorded their vachanas themselves on the palm leaves, whereas illiterate vachanakaras uttered those vachanas, what they felt in the mansion of experience, and what they uttered was recorded on the palm leaves under their signature. Each vachanakara has his or her own signature. And anyhow, like that, Channabasavana recorded them and he kept them in a proper custody. Like that, the time went on and on. Anyhow, as the time went on and on, there was a tussle between the Sharanas on the one hand and the traditionalists, that is the system, pro-systems and anti-systems. First systemers could not tolerate these Sharanas. They rebelled against the Sharanas and they punished the Sharanas, and anyhow, as the time went on and on, the environment of Kalyana was polluted, and some Sharanas went this side and that side, hither and thither. Before the environment of Kalyana was polluted, Allama Prabhu left Kalyana for Sri Shaila. Allama Prabhu was unioned with God and become a god at last in Sri Shaila in Andhra Pradesh of modern India. Like this it went on and on. But here we remember Allama Prabhu for composing vachanas, for guiding the Sharanas in their spirituality. Basavana might have composed so many vachanas, but Allama Prabhu did it in a few of vachanas what Basavana did it in hundreds of vachanas. That is the speciality of Basavana. Of course, Basavana was a leader, political leader, whereas Allama Prabhu was a spiritual leader. If we come to know the vachanas of Allama Prabhu, you will be wondered. I will quote 2 or 3 of Allama's vachanas for your information. So, look here, the legs are 2 wheels, the body is a wagon full of things. 5 men drive the wagon, and 1 man is not like another. And 1 man is not like another. Unless you ride it in full knowledge of its ways, the axle will break. O Lord of chaos. Of course, it is a sort of passion vachana. Allama says something about the body. This body has 2 legs, This body has legs and it has two legs. That means they are compared to the legs of a man, and the body over the legs is a wagon, and that wagon is full of things. Wagon is full of so many panchabhutas, so many things, so many matters. It may be five senses or five bhutas, panchabhutas, etc., etc. So, five men drive the wagon. There are five men, they are piloting the wagon, and those five men are not like one another. They are different. Here, it refers to five senses of a human being, five senses of a man. That is, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. These are the five senses, these are the five organs, these are the five senses which are very difficult to be controlled. If you do not control them properly, automatically they will bring you something evil. They will bring you something not good. So, these five senses are not like one another. Here it indicates the five senses. And if you do not control them properly, automatically the axle of the wheel will be broken. That means if you do not control these five senses properly, they will bring some evils. They will bring man's downfall. That is why we have to control these five senses properly. So at the end of Vachana, he says, O Lord of Chaos, that means Guheshwara. That means Lord of the Chaos, because Allama used the signature Lord of Chaos as he was enlightened in a cave before Anivishaya. So I will read another Vachana. Where was the mango tree? Where the quail bird? When were they kin? Mountain gooseberry and sea salt. When were they kin? And when was I kin to the Lord of Chaos? Of course, here he compares mangoes and quail bird. Mango groves are beautiful to be seen. Quail sings in the mangroves. And of course, there is a mountain. There grows the gooseberries. And there is a salt in the sea. If salt and gooseberries combined together, they give a wonderful taste. Where that relationship between the gooseberry on the mountain and salt in the sea. So like that, Lord, you are the God. I am a simple human being. What is the relationship between you and I? Even though I related to you, you related to me. No doubt about it, but it is a wonderful relation. Sometimes we talk of relationless relation. That is what here Allama Prabhu indicates. He suggests relationless relation. That is very important in the life of a man. He talks of attachment and detachment. Attachment and detachment must be there in the life of a man. We have to attach and we have to detach something. What we detach, what we attach is very important, but attachment between God and man is very, very important. Then, in order to attach to God, he has to detach his evils, he has to detach, he has to control his five sense organs, his five senses, and then he will be united with God and he will be a God at the end. That is the main thing. That is what Allama Prabhu suggests in his vachanas. And another common vachana is that they say wealth is Maya. Wealth is not Maya. They say woman is Maya. Woman is not Maya. They say earth is Maya. Earth is not Maya. Guheshwara, the desire before the mind itself is Maya. Generally, we think that wealth, earth, and woman is Maya. Simply, it is said, land, lady, and language spoil the life. But Allama Prabhu does not accept it. He says, they are not Maya. They do not spoil the life of a person. But if we do not control our mind, if we do not control our desire, that uncontrolled desire will spoil a life of a person. That is why we have to control the desire properly and we have to release it properly, and then only a person will be ennobled and his personality will be enhanced. That is a wonderful concept at that time. Even today it is. So many of us think that Indian philosophy is nothing but Yannu, Vannu, Maya, etc., etc. So it is not Maya, but the desirous mind is the Maya. So we have to control it. So like this, Allama suggests the enhancement of personality of a man and woman. So we have to enhance ourselves by controlling the five senses. These five senses, five Mahabhutas, that is the five great evils, five great senses are very difficult to be controlled. So we have to control them. If we do not control them, they will spoil the society. So that is why everyone should try to control it with good behaviors, good words, and panchacharas, that is the five practices, and 6 pages. In order to control these great Mahapatakas or Maha-Indriyagalu, Panchendriyagalu, we have to control our mind with eightfold, with 8 coverings, 5 practices, and 6 pages. Basavanna composed vachanas of the first stage, that is the devotion stage. But he did not compose vachanas of other pages properly. But it cannot be said of Allama Prabhu. He composed of vachanas at the higher level. He composed vachanas from the devotional level to the Aikya level. That is, Veerashaivism has these 6 phases. These 6 stages, they are devotion stage, Maheshwara stage or phase, Prasada phase, Pranalinga phase, Sharana phase, and Aikya phase. Aikya is the end of a man or a human being. He becomes united with God, and at the end he becomes a God himself or herself. That is the speciality of Allama Prabhu's thought. Allama Prabhu's vachanas are very short and sweet. They are very symbolic, they are very indicative, and they show the way the man or woman has to go. So that shows the personality of Allama Prabhu. So we have called him Allama because that Allama negated these Panchabhutas, these five great evils, five senses, releasing them properly when and where it is required. So that is why Allah means to negate positively and negate negatively, as depending upon the context. So that Allama negates these Panchabhutas in a proper sense, these pancha organs, these five senses, these five great evils in a proper way. That is why he is called as Allama. That is what some people say. But anyhow, in those days, in which caste a person is born is not very important. They do not give the importance of one's birth. They give to his achievements, to his humanly feelings, to his humanly expressions, to his sense of equality and to sense of sharing with each other. That is why they do not bother of the cause. They are against the cause, and accordingly their life is motivated, their life is they practice in the life. That is why we don't get the real picture of the birth of Allama Prabhu. Whatever we get is a mythical one. Allama Prabhu is a mystic. So, as a mystic, he does not believe the myths in a bad sense. He used the myth and others used the myth in order to portray the character of Allama in a proper way. Of course, when we do not know the actual details of a person or a thing, automatically we begin to see it in the form of a myth. It will become a kind of legend. It is inevitable. It is also a form of life, a form of literature, which enhance the personality, which enhance the nobility of a society. That is why Vachanakaras like Allama is a model for ever and ever for the persons of spirituality, for the persons of a change from good to better and the best, and is a model for the creative activity. So, dear friend, that is what Allama is even today. We have personified, of course, we have see the relevance of Allama's vachanas even in the today's society. Dear viewers, please subscribe and share, and see you in the next episode. Namaskar.